right, what's going on, everybody? So this is a crazy turn of events from where we sat after the Cotton Bowl, losing to Missouri, and didn't feel really great, heading into the offseason. And here we are, mid-January, actually mid to late January, and this has completely changed for the Ohio State football program. So joining me today to talk about this whole situation and everything that's happened, whether if it be players coming back who we didn't think, transfer portal guys, signings, coaching changes, all this we're going to try to tackle here. But joining me, Michael Cozy. How are you doing, sir?
Man, after that Cotton Bowl, it was pretty rough. I mean, look, the defense actually showed up. The offense just wasn't prepared. You had a center go on a podcast and call out our coaching staff and say that we weren't really preparing for the game, which kind of tipped off to me that we're going to be making some changes inside that coaching staff, without a doubt, which has already happened. Obviously, we saw the safeties coach get released, things like that. You've seen a lot of moving parts and things like that. The one main thing is, I will say, is we kept the people who, how do I put this? We kept the people that our main core group of players in place that probably could have went second or even third round at minimum. Like a bunch of them would have been second round picks that came back and stayed. And that's the thing that you see with these teams who go like deep into the playoffs, and now we're going to a 12-team playoff, and it's going to be a lot more grueling. You're going to need players that have been in the program for 3 to 4 to 5 years even. I mean, go look at defending national champs Michigan. I mean, I really honestly think because Michigan won a national title, it's what's fueling the fire here in Columbus.
As it should.
I mean, that lit off a bomb, because I think a lot of people, for the first 2 years they won the Big Ten, they beat us, things like that. And it was like, okay, well, they haven't won anything though. They're not us. They're not doing anything that we're doing, things like that. And then they beat Bama, and it was like, I mean, well known that the NIL 1870 Society and the foundation did fundraisers started the day after the Rose Bowl. And when Michigan won, people were like, take my money, do whatever you can to beat Michigan. Like that was literally the main thing. As soon as that happened, it lit a fire. I mean, it lit a fire, and now we have players who are donating money.
CJ Stroud, first big.
I was very shocked to see him be the first one. Now he's very close with Cardell. So technically, can we really say he's the first one? Because, I mean, Cardell's literally the founder of the foundation. So he's like the main integral there. So I would say Cardell would be, but I mean, we're pulling at hairs at that point. I mean, it's a good thing. And I'm not going to say it, but maybe CJ kind of feels bad that he didn't beat Michigan at least once. And he wants to help the program actually get back to beating Michigan year in and year out, competing for national championships. Talk about a complete 180, though. I mean, everyone was like, man, Ryan Day's done. Like, this program is in shambles. This is the worst it's been since, like, John Cooper in the late 90s. And we're staring down the barrel at going, like, 7-5, 8-4. People were talking 7-5, 8-4 next year. And I'm like, let's pump the brakes. It's going to be okay. And it seemed like when Will Howard committed, that's when everything started to go up. But, yeah, we can jump into I think you wanted to talk about returning players first.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, there's a whole lot here. There is so many different lanes to go with this. But let's start off with the guys who were already in-house that came back. I'm just going to read off the entire list, and then we can just talk about it. Whoever you want to talk about. Jack Sawyer coming back. JT Tuimoloau coming back, Tyleik Williams coming back, Ty Hamilton coming back, Denzel Burke, Jordan Hancock, Cody Simon, Lathan Ransom, Mecca Buka, Trevion Henderson, and Donovan Jackson. So I'm sure there's probably a couple that I missed maybe in there, but in
For
terms of big name guys,
did
that's
did you
it.
say did you say Ransom?
Yes.
Okay,
Hmm.
so Ransom's going to be a key to me. Obviously, we'll get down and talk about our big catch in the what I would call, you can't even call it transfer portal anymore. It's free agency. It
Hmm.
literally is. It's no longer transfer portal. It's free agency. We landed the big fish with Ransom there. Denzel Burke coming back. Hancock's still going to be there. Like, these are guys that are just going to excel. One thing I will say, a big get back for us is Cody Simon. I
Hmm.
am thrilled about that. Um, I don't think he's going to, he'll see the field every single play. And then you're going to see, in my opinion, a rotation. I think Sonny Styles with Downs coming is going to be a linebacker. He's going to
Hmm.
rotate with, so Styles, Hicks, and Powers. They're all going to rotate that other linebacker position. Um, one, you know what? And look, everyone can be down on him, whatever. Like, everyone was hyping him up. I think the way Jack Sawyer played in the Cotton Bowl shows
Yep.
to me that
Hmm.
he could have a Chase Young, Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa type final fifth year, senior year like season. Like, he looked like a man on a mission in the Cotton Bowl.
Hmm.
And he was the only one. Like, even some of the defense played well, but even some of them were just like, they just didn't have energy. No one was hyped up. He was the only one that was hyped up. Um, I mean, look, I just think without a doubt, these guys who are coming back, they're coming back for a reason. And I mean, look, this podcast is being recorded on January 22nd, 2024. Um, it's 312 days, 18 minutes and 40 or 18 hours and 47 minutes till kickoff in the horseshoe for the game. I mean, that's the reason these guys are coming back. That is the only reason. They have yet to beat Michigan. They probably don't want to be the players who go through the whole process and never beat Michigan. I mean, Marv was disappointed that we didn't beat Michigan this year. He was disappointed that he never beat Michigan. He's probably the best Ohio State wide receiver of all time and never beat Michigan. Even players like David Boston beat Michigan, and that was during like the Cooper era. Terry Glenn at least beat Michigan his freshman year. So, like, these are players that are throughout history of Ohio State. At least they beat Michigan once. Marv is literally like the only one that can come to mind that is like a legendary Ohio State wide receiver who never beat Michigan. And I think he kind of debated on it. But I mean, you can't pass up what he would pass up. Mbuka obviously going to be moving to the outside. I think that's huge. Jeremiah Smith, obviously, we'll get to him down the road because he's coming in. But I'm really, this is the guy who I want to see. I look, Brandon Ennis, Carnell Tate, awesome. They're 5 stars, they're great, etc. I want to see what Jaden Ballard does. I want to see
Hmm.
his next step. I'm excited for his next step. As far as the offensive lineman goes, Hinsman's back. Donovan Jackson being back. I mean, look, I'm not going to lie. They may be starters, could, but I think it's going to be a competition.
Hmm.
And Simmons, okay, he improved. I need to see another step forward for him. As far as like when you want to talk about running backs, Travion coming back, dude, that's huge. I mean, especially with transfers in.
Hmm.
And Dallin Hayden, honestly, like, I'm so excited for him because I think he's going to be. My thing is, we have so much talent, and you want to keep everybody happy because in this day and age, you don't make someone happy, they're gone,
Hmm.
whether they're on the field playing or not. But I mean, out of your guys, I would say I'm most excited for Jack Sawyer and Tyleik Williams, to be honest. Those are the two names on that D line. I mean, JTT, he's had his moments. Everyone keeps pointing to that Penn State game. I just want to be like, what have you done for me in the rest of the grand scheme of things?
Hmm.
That's my only complaint about JTT is he kind of disappears in a lot of games. Jack Sawyer has never been amazing, but he's never been just like a non-factor. Um, so I mean, out of your guys, who's your big returning guy? Because mine's Jack Sawyer, and then I would say behind that, the biggest one probably Mbuka, just because he's going to be the leader of that wide receiver room, and we need some leadership there.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think the whole defensive line, for the most part, coming back outside of Mike Hall is crazy. Like, Jack Sawyer, you mentioned it, had a great ending to the season, and I think he had his moments. But JTT, he's somebody that I think could pop off at any moment. Like, he's somebody that I feel like it's just been sitting there, and that, giant has just been waiting to be woken up. And I think this, if there's any year to do it, it's this year. It has to be this year. And you could say the same thing with Jack Sawyer. And like you mentioned, you saw the flashes of it. With Tyleik Williams and Ty Hamilton coming back, I think that's just stability. And that's important to have stability at key positions on the defensive line. But I agree with you. I think Jack Sawyer is ultimately the big one because I think Ohio State's been missing a dominant edge pass rusher. Like we've had in the days, the Bosas, Chase Young. I don't think we've seen that here for a couple of years. And I think Jack's got a chance, even though it's going to be in 1 year, he's got a chance to be kind of the next guy in that name. I think JTT should. Do I think he will? No. But we'll see with that. But the other one for me that I think is huge, and I cannot believe he made the decision to come back, is Denzel Burke. Denzel Burke is a guy who, before this past season, we were talking about top 10 pick, possibly even higher, depending on how well he plays. And that corner position is huge. It is absolutely huge. If you want to match up in the playoffs with a Georgia, with look at Washington this past year, all the receivers they have, you have got to have at least, at bare minimum, one lockdown guy. And the youth of that corner room and of that secondary, having guys like Denzel Burke, Jordan Hancock coming back, Lathan Ransom coming back, these are all huge things because now, you mentioned it, Ohio State has the ability to play around with some of their pieces. Sonny Styles is now going to be moved to linebacker, but at the same time, you can also use him as kind of that hybrid strong safety if you wanted to.
In some packages, we're going to. Like, there's going to be a bunch of different packages. And here's the thing. Jim Knowles is going to he has everything at his ability now. Like, he has, and here's the thing. He doesn't have 3- and 4-star recruits. He has 4- and 5-star recruits. Where at Oklahoma State, he had 2, 3, maybe a few 4-stars.
Yeah, so it's crazy the flexibility that you have on defense. So, obviously we're going to get into the portal guys, but in terms of who you brought back and, where the pieces of this puzzle lie on paper, getting the guys back that you got back are beyond huge. And an underrated one, we'll talk about running back situation here in a second, but Donovan Jackson on that offensive line, I think, is big because that is a huge problem. Obviously, Ohio State's been really aggressive. You got your quarterback, got another running back, and multiple others. But the offensive line is the one position that fans and people in the media keep mentioning. And Ohio State bringing back Donovan Jackson, best piece on that offensive line. And then you go out and you add additions to it, and possibly even more. Who knows? But that's huge. That is absolutely huge. So it's shocking to me that we got all these guys back, but I think this is the new world of college football. I mean, this is the NIL world of college football where you're able to keep some of these guys, and I think it's huge. I think this team needs a core. This team needs a core group of guys to kind of show these transfers and these new guys coming in, hey, what does it mean to be a Buckeye? I think that's been lost, and these guys are the guys who are going to have to do it. So absolutely huge, absolutely huge. Getting everybody who you got back, coming back. But are you ready to move into the portal, guys? You got anything else?
No, I think we can move to Portal, guys.
Okay.
And it's funny because I don't know how many of you guys are Marvel fans, but I've used this comparison, and it was funny because I made this comparison probably a half hour before Ohio State football put it out there, and then I put it out there on my timeline. Actually, Michigan's like Thanos. They came in, he clicked his fingers, and it was like we had 20 guys hit the transfer portal. Like it was like the world was falling. Like it was the end of it. Ohio State football was not the way it was meant to be. Like everything was going not going our way. Like things were just like very wishy washy. And then you had a few commits that you had a few people that were decommitted that were like, okay, well, this is kind of weird. Like you had a Noah Rogers leave, you had Julian Fleming leave, you had Jesse Mirko leave, which was just like, what are you doing, man? Like, why are you leaving? But I don't know. I kind of got the sense like, okay, we're Ohio State. Like, maybe we'll reload, maybe. And then you had the Cam Ward situation. Everyone was up in arms, like, hey, we got to get Cam Ward. We got to get Cam Ward. And like when it all came out and said and done, like we weren't even interested in Cam Ward. Like Cam Ward wanted to come to us, and we weren't interested in him. And that's when it kind of turned for me. It was like, okay, if we're not interested in someone, but someone's interested in us that much that they almost declare for the NFL draft and then revert and go back to the school that was highly wanting them, that says to me that we're still the brand name Ohio State. We still got the power, everything like that. And it's funny because it's like you had exactly like Ohio State football said, and I said, it's the Avengers. We're literally gathering everybody. And here's the thing. We didn't get quantity. We lost 20 people. We only had 6 people transfer in, but we got so much quality.
Quality, yes.
Quality is the key thing. So, I mean, if you go through our recruits and the way we got them and the dates that we got them, etc. Our first recruit in was a tight end from Ohio. The dude is 6'6", 240. Is it Kamaric?
I was just about to say it's. I think it's Will Kamaric.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. He was targeted 24 times and made 22 catches this year. He's a sure-handed, red zone tight end. He's 6'6", 240, and he's more of a blocking tight end. Great for our offense. That's someone we need because G. Scott is more of a – well –
what is he good at, dude?
We're
I'm sorry.
He is still in the – he should be still banned in the shadow realm after Michigan 2 years ago when he headbutted the guy, and that is when the whole momentum switched in that game.
Dude, listen, I like G. Scott. When we got G. Scott as a receiver, I was like, okay, I like this kid. But since he's been here, man, it has been just the ultimate downfall. And now he's playing tight end. He put on size. You should think, hey, a guy who's a former receiver, big receiver, should be a great receiving tight end. And man, dude, not to hate on the kid, I feel bad. I hope he gets better, but like, boy.
But I mean, okay, so then like you jump ahead in a few days before the national championship game. You get a recruit, you get your quarterback, Will Howard, and the first thing he says, very key to me, was, you got it, we're going to beat Michigan. Like, we are going to beat them for their fans, for the alumni, for the team, etc. Like, he made it a point to say, you're going to be happy with us. First thing, automatic W. And at that point, I was like, okay, we're back, we're fine, we're good. And then you get in Seth McLaughlin, which, hey, look, not a good center. Great offensive lineman. Awesome offensive lineman. And you're going to move him to guard?
Mm-hmm.
Like, no brainer. This is
Yep.
perfect. And also, he gets to play against Michigan again. He's probably pissed off because
Mm-hmm.
he probably single handedly might have lost them the game. Might have lost them the game.
Yeah.
So and then a few days go by, the national championship, and what I absolutely loved, Michigan wins the national title, and then Judkins literally immediately
Mm-hmm.
posted he's coming to Ohio State. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, man, so you went from Michigan talking about their national championship, which it'll probably stand, unfortunately, but there's always going to be the asterisk next to it. But as soon as the game ends, they haven't even been past the trophy yet.
Mm-hmm.
And you literally
Quinshawn
get
Judkins.
and
Yep.
you get Judkins as a transfer into Ohio State. Tell me it wasn't planned. Tell me he doesn't know the rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, perfect, right then and there. And then you fast forward to about 3 days ago, and you get the big fish. You get two big fish,
Mm-hmm.
not one, but two in the same day or same 2 day period here. You get Caleb Downs on what was it, Friday night?
Yeah.
And then you get Julian Sayin on Sunday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this team is just absolutely stacked now.
Mm-hmm.
Vegas has us as favorites to win the national championship. First team to win the 14 playoff national championship. It's kind of funny, and I look. Let's go back in history a little bit. 98, we probably were the best team, and that was the first year of the BCS.
Mm-hmm.
We won the national championship in 2014, the first year of the 14. We are now
Mm-hmm.
the best team in the 12-team playoff.
Nope.
This is literally like setting up again to where like it's all of ours to lose. And
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing, like I said before, with the recruits that came in, who am I most excited for? To be honest with you, I'm excited for Julian Sayin the most
Okay.
because I think in 2 years he's the starter. Unfortunately, I know Air's great, but Julian Sayin is like a lead 5-star.
Mm-hmm.
Air, I'm going to be very honest with you. I got a little nervous about Air. Seeing him play a few games, he was great in some of them, but he was great at the end of the game. And look, don't get me wrong. I love that, but I also thought in the back of my head, he was kind of average for the whole game and then was great at the end. Huh. Who does this remind me of? Oh, yeah, the quarterback we have now, who literally was very average and then at the end of games would pour it on and turn it on. And I thought to myself, look, Air's going to be a good player no matter where he ends up. Don't get me wrong. He's probably going to end up at Georgia if he doesn't win the job against Sayin. And that's another thing we can talk about. So we get Sayin in here, and you have Devin Brown and Lincoln Keyholes on
Mm-hmm.
the roster as well. I don't think either one of them are going to be the backup. I think Lincoln will stay. I think Lincoln will convert to a tight end.
Really? Okay.
He's just too athletic.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to convert to something of that nature. A slot receiver, tight end, something is going to happen there. Or maybe he goes to the defensive side of the ball and kind of plays that slot or that like safety box linebacker kind of position.
Mm-hmm.
He's just way too athletic, and I think that they find room for him. I think Devin Brown goes back home, goes to Arizona actually, where he played his end of high school ball, and I think he goes to Arizona State. Either there or Arizona maybe, and sits a year, or we'll go after this year to Arizona.
It's interesting. The whole quarterback situation is going to be a conversation for years to come. I mean, we thought the Common Core, Devin Brown, Lincoln Keyholtz was a conversation. This is a conversation, but let's just talk about these transfer portal guys, right? Obviously, there's a lot to be talked about with each. You already mentioned it with the tight end. I feel the same way about the center we got. Seth, how do you say his last name? McLaughlin?
McLaughlin.
McLaughlin. Okay. So
Yes.
I feel the exact same way. I think it's a no-brainer, move him to guard. Just makes too much sense.
He has the
Um
same last name as our Browns kicker.
okay, that's
Yes.
that's what I was thinking. I'm like, is it McLaughlin? Okay.
Yes.
Um so the three that I really want to talk about and kind of get into depth here. I want to start off with Quinshaw Judkins because I feel like I'm very excited. I am very, very excited about this Ohio State run game because, and you can factor Will Howard into this as well. Ohio State now has Travion Henderson, Quinshaw Judkins, and then Dallin Hayden is your top three running backs. You had Chip Trayanum transfer out. Mayan Williams goes to the NFL draft, which at the time I thought, okay, that's interesting. But in hindsight, probably the best move he can make, whatever. But he goes to the NFL draft. So now you have three running backs who are, at least two of them are elite. I think Dallin Hayden can get to elite status. I think it's just going to be a work in progress with him. But Travion Henderson, Quinshaw Judkins. Let's just talk about this. What kind of roles do you see for both of these guys? Because Travion has been hurt throughout his college career. He's dealt with injuries. When he's played, he's been fantastic. But bringing in Quinshaw Judkins, best running back in the SEC. This guy is an every down back. He can do just about everything for you. I think he is really going to be overlooked when it comes to the final look back at this offseason. I think people are going to look at Caleb Downs. You're going to look at Will Howard, Julian Sane. Like, I think Judkins is going to be overlooked, but he, in my opinion, is going to be the bread and butter at the end of the day of this transfer portal because Travion Henderson, love him to death, cannot count on him staying healthy. Now that you bring in Judkins, to me, obviously we're Browns fans. You can see it in his background. You can see it in mine. When we had Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in their primes, you could have that rotation, that constant rotation, where you didn't skip a beat. And both guys were able to have fresh legs. Both guys relatively stayed healthy. And now I think you're seeing that here at Ohio State. I think you're going to have that healthy rotation of both Judkins and Travion Henderson. But the interesting factor here is I think you have a three. I think Dallin Hayden is going to be worked into this offense. How big of a role is he going to have? I don't know. I can't tell you. We'll just have to wait and see on that. But you have two elite guys that you can rotate in and out and do different things with. And then you kind of have that third Swiss Army knife. For you, what do you kind of see as the layout as far as who's getting snaps? How are we going to use this running back room?
I think Judkins is going to be your number one back. I think Trey's going to be the number two in the load management kind of thing. And then Hayden's going to be like that every few downs back. The one thing that Hayden I like is his out of the backfield pass catching. Mm-hmm. I do like that. And a lot of people can say, oh, he's not that great at that. But he hasn't really seen the field that much. And when he has, I feel like he's excelled at that. I really like the running back room. I mean, honestly, there's not really a room outside maybe the tight ends that I don't like. Because, like, G. Scott is just not it, obviously. But
this can't be the Barry G. Scott podcast. We can't turn that into this.
But I do like the transfer from Ohio. I mean, he could end up being a pretty decent find of a tight end. So, I mean, is there a flaw in our offense? No, and especially with who we brought in as the O coordinator. I mean, he kind of runs a lot of run pass options, and it's also he throws downfield, and he does utilize his tight ends. It's just we'll get to him in a second. We'll talk about his schemes and things like that. But I think that with the way this offense is complexed, and you have Will Howard, who can also be as a running back almost. Look, Ohio State excels, and this is why I said I like Julian Sayin better than Aaron Nolan. Aaron Nolan is a pocket passer. Yes, does he have feet to move? Yes, but he's more of a pocket passer. Where if you go back in the history of Ohio State football, when do we dominate Michigan the most? We dominate them with a running quarterback. Justin Fields could throw on the run, move out of the pocket. Dwayne Haskins didn't have to do that. He played 1 year, but he was just such a good pure pocket passer that it didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, our defense in that game and special teams and the game that he played in dominated. But if you look the year before, 2017, when he had to have that emergency start because a random cameraman ran over JT Barrett. It's just kind of like I look at it and I'm just kind of like, every single time Ohio State has been great, they've had a mobile quarterback. CJ Stroud, not a mobile quarterback. Kyle McCord, not a mobile quarterback.
Let me ask you this, because now obviously we've seen CJ in the NFL had the best rookie season like ever.
I'm not going to comment on this.
If you don't want to, I will. I think Ryan Day does not like his quarterbacks running. I think that it's not a.
You're baiting me into comment on this.
Okay. I'll just leave it at this. I think Ryan Day is very negative on quarterbacks running. I think he doesn't want his quarterbacks to run, but I do think okay. This is a horrible example and nobody will understand this. But for those of you who will, you will understand what I'm saying. In the wrestling community, there's a thing of saying, go out there and make your own name, right? Where if you're told to do something, sometimes you got to go above and beyond to make yourself stand apart. I think that is kind of how the quarterback situation with mobility at Ohio State needs to be handled. And I know, hey, don't, defy your coaches, whatever. But hey, if I'm the quarterback at Ohio State and I see green grass in front of me, I'm taking it. I don't care if they tell me not to. So I think CJ can run. I think we've seen that in the NFL now. Saw that against Georgia, his mobility. I just don't think they really wanted him to do it, so I'll leave it at that. But anyway, so yeah. What were we talking about before that?
We were kind of talking about basically if Will Howard's going to run or not.
Yeah, okay.
And I was saying how, if you notice in the past, Ohio State has been successful when they've had a mobile quarterback. Mm-hmm. And that's why I said I like Julian Sayin better than Aaron Nolan, because Sayin is kind of a mobile quarterback. He takes off, he runs, and he ran a lot of run-pass option. And I think this is my opinion why Bill O'Brien was brought in, was because Ryan Day knows he has to change it up. It's kind of weird because the Browns offense and the Buckeyes offense is kind of in the same position, where like it's good, but we need to change it up to make it great again. And you always need to like change stuff up. And I think Ryan Day kind of became predictable. The one thing is about Ryan Day is that has been separated from different coaches at Ohio State and in the Ohio State era. He doesn't go out and just beat people senselessly. Like, we haven't had a 70-10 kind of game for a while. The only one that I can remember that he really put it to somebody that was like pretty good was Michigan State. And that's just because we just ran streaks all day against them, and CJ was just throwing balloon passes up that were caught for touchdowns every other play, and there's nothing they could do to stop it. And Ryan Day was just like, cool, let's just keep doing it. That's the only time I can remember Ryan Day really putting it to somebody. It's always seemed like he's won games because he knows he has more talent. But outside of that, we can kind of move on from the transfers to
well, hold on. I got two things I want to dive into. We can keep it short, but two things we need to dive into. Will Howard brought in, tell me if you disagree. He's going to be the starting quarterback. That's why he was brought here.
Correct, yes.
So Will Howard is interesting. I didn't really know how to feel about him when we got him, because his style of quarterback is, unique, right? And obviously the comparisons with Josh Allen have been made, and I do think that's true. But you got a big dude who can run. He's not like elusive necessarily, but he can take off and run and he can beat you. Similar to Josh Allen, that kind of style where you look at Josh and you say that's a pocket passing quarterback, but when he takes off, he can get it done. Will Howard, kind of same thing. Strong arm, right? He can whip that ball downfield. Between the lines and as far as the accuracy side of things, what is it going to look like? Remains to be seen. I kind of have a question mark with Will Howard. I'm not like the hugest fan of him personally, but here's the thing. I think Will Howard, and this was a conversation that was had last offseason, whether if it was Kyle McCord starting, whether if it was Devin Brown, whoever, they only needed to be solid, like good to solid, because of what is surrounding him. I think because of the run game that you're giving Will Howard to work with, including him in that run game, the receivers that are coming back, Jeremiah Smith coming in, and a lot of these guys who are going to step up. We see it every year at the wide receiver position with Ohio State. These guys are going to step up. You mentioned it, Bill O'Brien coming in. We'll get into depth in that in a minute, but Will Howard, what do you kind of see for him this season? Because I don't think it's necessarily like, I don't think he has to be great. Do you agree with that?
I disagree with that, actually.
Okay.
I think when we get to the playoffs, he will have to be great at some point in some kind of game. I think that, like I said, I think that at some point he's going to have to be above and beyond. He's going to have to become sophomore Will Howard again. Because sophomore Will Howard, remember, won a Big 12 championship. Took Kansas State to where people were like, there ain't no way this Kansas State team's that good. Mm-hmm. But he had more talent, and then all of his talent kind of left him. And this past season, he really struggled. And, yeah, he threw picks in some crucial situations, but I think he needs to be great when it comes to the playoffs. When we get to the round of 8 or 4 or a national championship game, he's going to have to be great in that sense. And that's why I think college football is going in one of two ways here right now. Because hypothetically speaking, let's say Ohio State goes undefeated, runs a table, 13-0 to win the national title and go win the 3 games in a row. You're going to play 16 games. At some point, Will Howard's going to have to make a big play, and a big play in. I'm going to be very honest with you. I think there's going to be some teams that we are going to be shocked at that you will not believe are going to give us fits. And I'm going to be honest with you. There is one team on our schedule that I think he's going to have to really ramp it up, and actually it's going to be a hell of a game. And people are going to laugh, but they have the talent. They didn't have an offensive coordinator this past year, though. And now they might, depending on who they get. But we host Iowa October 5th. And you're going to Oregon the next week. Mm-hmm. Now, Oregon could be a loss, and we could see them again in the Big Ten title game. I don't know.
Oh, that's so weird. It's so weird. Yeah, and I like it.
And it's going to be real weird when the game's in Indianapolis, and it's 90% Ohio State fans, and that's an Ohio State home game.
Yep.
It's just, I mean, if you're really looking at it right now, so, like, look, our first real test is that Iowa game, and I'm telling you right now, I'm looking at it, and I'm just thinking to myself, yeah, probably we're going to be 2 undefeated teams. And the other thing is, people don't want to say this, but Iowa's going to have 2 weeks to prepare for us. I think that's the first time I'm going to need to see at least an above average Will Howard. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you right now, Iowa is not going to be a cakewalk this year if they can find an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, and Iowa's an interesting team every year. They're going to give you fits no matter what. That's just the style of ball they play, offensively, defensively. So it'll be interesting, but I'm excited for Will Howard. I like a lot of what he has to offer. I think for me, it's just I'm gonna have to see it. I'm gonna have to see it in this program, in this offense, before I'll feel great about it. So it's interesting with Will Howard, but we'll see. I like him, but again, for at least for me, I just want to see it. I just want to see it on the field, see what it looks like before I get too excited with him. The next guy, we have to talk about him. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like you said, the biggest addition, Caleb Downs. This kid is unreal.
Yeah.
Absolutely unreal. This kid comes in, you have 2 years of him here in Columbus as an Ohio State Buckeye, and he can quite literally play every safety position you want him to play. He can play in the box. He can play deep free safety. He can literally do whatever you want. And obviously we can talk forever about how good this kid is. Led Alabama in tackles as a freshman. He's unreal. And for those of you who remember the Michigan-Alabama playoff game, the interception on the first drive that wasn't actually an interception, that was Caleb Downs. So he's unreal. And before I let you go, Cozy, I just want to say there was one play in particular when taking a deeper look at Caleb Downs that blew me away. I want to say it was Ole Miss, maybe, whatever, some team they were playing, and they threw a bubble screen. Caleb was nowhere near where that screen was going. He was more like middle-ish of the field. They threw that bubble screen, and before that receiver was able to take a couple steps, Caleb was in his face driving him backwards. And when you have a free safety, or a safety in general, as young as he is, as talented as he already is, who can jump a ball like he can jump a ball and just fly around, it's unbelievably impressive. And again, we're Browns fans, but I'm going to make the comparison. The way that JOK flies to the ball this past season for the Browns, I think Caleb Downs can offer you something similar as far as playmaking ability, because JOK is there every single play. He's somewhere near where the ball is stopped every single play. I think Caleb Downs is the same thing. I think we're going to use him multiple different ways. Having him back there with Lathan Ransom, and then obviously we mentioned Sonny Styles and his flexibility, this is going to be fun. And 2 years. Obviously, he'll probably be gone after that, but we have control of Caleb Downs here in Columbus for 2 years. So, with that being said, obviously, nothing but good things we can say. Other than this, and I'll leave it at this before I let you go. Nick Saban, unbelievable head coach, probably the greatest college coach of all time, one of the greatest football coaches of all time. Thank you for retiring. Thank you for retiring, because Nick Saban retiring has taken this OSU team from really good offseason to, oh my gosh, this is not fair. So I just want to throw that out there.
Let's just put it this way. It will always be fair, and you have to play the games. So I'm very excited about Caleb. Don't get me wrong. I think it's going to be awesome. But we really need to bring it this year, and we need to embarrass some teams. We need to get our swag back, if that makes sense. And once again, that game at Oregon is going to be NFL scouts' dreams, because they are going to be all over that game. It's going to be a top 5 matchup. It's going to be in Oregon. But I'm going to tell you what right now, that ticket price is ridiculous right now. There is going to be a ton of Ohio State fans there. That's not going to be your normal, typical Oregon home game where they have 90% of the crowd and it's rocking and everything. Look, Ohio State fans travel crazy, and that is going to be one of the games. We don't go to Michigan this year. Mm-hmm. That's going to be one of the games where we travel like crazy. I know we go to Penn State. Look, everyone's been to Penn State. This is going to be our once in a lifetime trip to Oregon, or what was supposed to be kind of. But I mean, we don't play at Oregon again in this 5-year span. So I think a lot of people are going to head out to Oregon. Um,
Yeah.
I'll say this: I'm very excited for Downs. Don't get me wrong, but I want to see it play out because this defense was already really good. This defense was already really good, and now we add Downs into the picture, and it's like you could be talking about the top defense in the country.
I don't think it's a could be. It's a should be. If they're not, I think
Yes.
this is an absolute disappointment.
I can agree with that. Yes, I do agree with that. Man, it is. It's going to be an interesting season. But I mean, I just wanted to be here like right now. Though.
Yeah.
that I can tell you.
Yeah. It's spring game is going to be really fun too. I don't know. I'll probably not be able to go to it, but it'll be fun.
And you know what? You know what the good thing is? Caleb Downs played his best games in the big moments.
Yep.
If you really want to look at what he did in the games, things like that. I mean, he had a pick in the Texas A&M game, which was a very tight game that kind of swayed the momentum. He had 13 tackles against LSU, 9 tackles against Tennessee. For a safety to be doing that, that's amazing. He had 10 tackles against Texas, and he forced a fumble. So, I mean, these are things that you just need to look at and go, he plays great. And you know what the unfortunate thing is this year? Our non-conference is terrible. It is just completely terrible. We don't play anybody. We have Marshall, Akron, and Western Michigan. Look, I hate college football when it does this to us because we were supposed to play Washington, and it would have probably been an okay game, not amazing, but those first 3 games are kind of trending on borderline scary, and then we go to Michigan State to open up Big Ten play, and that's kind of like, okay, these could be 4 games that could not be within 5 touchdowns. So, other than that, looks like we had a few coaching changes, huh?
Yeah. A lot of guys moving, and it's interesting because the biggest thing for me was like, hey, how much is Ryan Day going to put his nuts on the table and be like, hey, listen, you ain't getting it done, right? Because Ryan Day, it's obviously known that he's got his guys that he likes, and for whatever reason, probably get a pass more than they should. But this offseason, a lot of guys moved. But I want to start off and just mention it quick because here's the thing too. This is the reality. These guys are human beings. These coaches are human beings. I had the chance to meet and talk to Perry Eliano and his father for a good 15 minutes. Amazing dude. Awesome. Can't say enough nice things about him. And it was kind of sad for me to see him go just because getting to talk to him. He's a really good dude. So, just want to mention that too. When we talk about these coaching changes, these people are real people, and I know it's kind of hard when you're looking at athletes and looking at coaches to think of them that way because they're getting paid a lot more than we do. But these are real human beings, and for better or for worse, it's a business, and guys get moved. So, with that being said, safeties coach Perry Eliano did not have his contract renewed. Parker Fleming fired as special teams coordinator, and then Corey Dennis, dude. Oh,
can I for the last 2? Can I at least take a victory lap here?
Go ahead.
Am I allowed to swear?
I don't care. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Get the fuck out of my program.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the biggest thing here. Ryan Day had to do this. He had to step up, be a big boy, and fire the guys who needed to be fired.
Now, Parker Fleming. That dude, we had more 12 men on the field penalties in the past 2 seasons than I've ever seen in the history of football.
Yeah.
We had to take timeout after timeout. And then, not only that, remember Jesse Mirko when he. Are you okay over there? No, you're leaving the camera on. That's bullshit.
Give me a second.
That. Why did you react like that?
You know why I react? You know why I reacted the way I did? Because I know what you're talking about. You know, with Mirko and all that. But here's
the fake punt.
Yes, but the funniest part to me, all of these moves that have been made this offseason, I know we talked about it, but Mirko leaving Ohio State was one of those that you look at and you're like, who do you think you are? Like, you're not that important.
I know.
Like, what did you do?
And then he went to Vanderbilt.
Yeah, like, whatever.
Okay, so.
Whatever.
So, look here. He ran the fake punt.
Mm-hmm.
And Parker Fleming, like, praised him afterwards. And it's like, dude, we were destroying Rutgers. Rutgers of all teams. And you rubbed it in their face. And I remember people were panicking after that game. They were like, oh my God, we only beat Rutgers by 4 touchdowns. And I'm like, imagine where the program is at when you're talking about beating a team that in your conference by 4+ touchdowns. And you had to run a fake punt, though. Like, and I'll fully admit, I remember that game. It was a struggle. Mm-hmm. And then it was like a bomb went off and we scored 3 touchdowns in like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, game's over. Like, no one's catching us. But at the same time, it's all like, are you kidding me right now? Like, this is what's going on right now. Like, Jesse Mirko just ran a fake punt. What is going on that sideline that Parker Fleming is even – and then he was like, oh, well, he ran it on his own and it was a smart play. And I always tell them to have your head up and things like that. And I'm like, at that point in the game, he should be catching the ball, punting it away, and we should be moving on with this game. Mm-hmm. Instead, you caused a big, huge controversy, made us look like a bunch of dicks against Rutgers, no less. Like, what is your point here? Mm-hmm. So I was never a big Parker Fleming fan. I feel like, look, we can say what we want, but you can go look at the replay of the Georgia game last year, and we can say that missed field goal was all on Noah Ruggles. No, not all on Noah Ruggles. Because if you go back and you look at where the hold was for the first field goal and then the second field goal, it was all over the place. Like, one was like here close to his foot. One was out here. It's just like, what? I'm glad he's gone because the little things in special teams, that's all it's about. And I felt like the little things were the things that were missing. Mm-hmm. We'd have 10 guys on punt return. We'd have 12 guys on punt return. You'd have 10 guys out or 12 guys out there on punt. And it's like, you have literally
one job.
You are just in charge of special teams. When it's third down, maybe gather your guys together in a huddle and count them off and make sure that we have everybody and then send them out there. It's not that hard. That's peewee shit. Mm-hmm. And don't forget about, we're going to run the fake punt against Michigan 2 years ago. And what did we do? We punted the ball away because he forgot to call it. Like, there's so many things that were just so frustrating. And then Corey Dennis, look, I know he has a relationship with Urban. Mm-hmm. I know him and Ryan were kind of tight. Look, I get it. Lo and behold, it was time to move on from him. He wasn't terrible, but he just wasn't developing quarterbacks, and we saw that this year. Mm-hmm. I don't think we're quite done with our coaching moves yet. I still think there's some things that are needing to be ironed out. Obviously, unless I'm incorrect, we don't have a new special teams coordinator as of now.
No.
And Bill O'Brien's going to run the offense and the quarterback coaches. Mm-hmm. I do like the new safeties coach. I think that's fine. I really didn't have a terrible time with Perry, but Now, seeing what Ronnie Hickman's doing at the Browns and what he did at Ohio State, I was kind of like, yeah, not a good look for you, man. And then, just lo and behold, Bill O'Brien,
Mm-hmm.
great in between the 20s at calling plays.
Billy old Buckeye, as Zach Smith said on his Menace to Sports show.
We really, really, really need to watch him when he gets inside the 20, though.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he's not going to produce inside the 20, then we're going to end up with a problem. And that's where I'm going to get nervous. So, that being said, please learn to run a red zone offense. And I love the run pass option. I love how he throws downfield. I love how he utilizes tight ends. I'm really going to love how he throws downfield because everyone's like, oh, you're going to get a bunch of screens and things like that. But he also throws downfield. And I'm like, great, because we need that. I feel like Ryan Day did not like to throw downfield. And it was like, you have Marvin Harrison Jr. Throw the ball downfield.
And as much as I hate on Kyle McCord, that was when he was best, was just letting him just kind of lob it up there, and it worked. And especially now that you bring in a guy like Will Howard, with the arm strength of Will Howard, attack downfield. You have the guys to do it. You can do it.
Yeah. And I just really hope, I think it's going to work out. And here's the other thing. Bill O'Brien utilized the running back. Now, granted, Bill O'Brien has never won a Super Bowl and never won a national championship in college football. And he coached 8 years under Nick Saban and
Bill Belichick.
Now, I will agree with this, and I can say this. Those 6 years that he coached under Belichick, the Patriots never really had a threat, to be honest with you. This past season, when did Bill coach under Belichick, to be honest?
I want to say was it Mac Jones' first year?
Okay, so Bill O'Brien was offense coordinator in 2023. So this past season. So obviously they were terrible. That roster was terrible. The past 2 seasons, Georgia has just been playing outright better. I mean, he made a national championship his first year as the OC. And the second year, they ended up losing the SEC championship game, right?
Who? Alabama?
Alabama in 2022, right?
Oh, 2020. Yeah. Yeah, because Georgia won the national title, so.
Yeah, but did they... Hold on, I'm looking it up here real quick. Did they lose the SEC championship game?
I thought so. Because Georgia went back-to-back 2022, 2023. Wait.
No, they didn't make it because they lost to LSU and they lost to who else did they lose to? They lost to someone random.
Tennessee,
that was it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. They lost to LSU and Tennessee. So look, okay, so you had those 2 seasons, and oh, by the way, they didn't lose that Tennessee game because of offense. They lost that Tennessee game because they gave up some 50-some points or something. Look, is he a great offense coordinator? I'm not saying he's great. I'm not saying he's elite. He's fringe good to great, and he'll help us out. The other thing is, with him calling plays, it's going to give Ryan Day a chance to actually manage the game instead of have to be worried about the play every single time. Is Ryan Day still going to be in on the offense? Hell yeah. But I think Ryan Day is kind of at this point where it's like, dude, you got to beat Michigan and you got to get it done in the bowl games and you got to get it done in the playoffs. So it's going to be exciting. Other than that, what you kind of stated on coaches, what else you got?
Well, for me with Bill O'Brien, when I saw it, I saw Ohio State bring in Bill, like the notification, Ohio State brings in Bill O'Brien as offensive coordinator. And the first thing I said was, Bill O'Brien? Like, huh? It kind of caught me off guard because it's not what I was thinking. But, you know, with that being said, I was more negative on it before. I was very negative on the hire initially was not a huge fan of it. But now I think it makes sense, especially for this next season. I think for this next season, looking at what Bill O'Brien likes to do, likes to run the ball, likes to throw it deep. It fits what we have. It fits the positions that we have on the field and the skill set of the guys we have on the field. We talked about it. Will Howard can run, Judkins, Travion, Dallin Hayden, right? You can run the ball. Throwing it deep, you got a guy with the arm strength to do it. You got the receiver. So it makes a lot of sense. What I'll say is this. How long will Bill O'Brien be here? I don't know. I don't think this is like a long-term thing where Bill O'Brien's the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. Just because I don't know. It's weird. It's really weird. There's a lot that I like and there's a lot that I dislike. I'll tell you what I do like is I think you finally have a guy on this coaching staff with the balls to MF you. Like that's what this team needs. You need somebody with that aggressiveness, with that mentality. And, for better for worse, I think Bill O'Brien can do that job. But it's weird. It's just a weird fit for me. Like, never in a million years did I think I'd see Bill O'Brien at Ohio State. But, his resume is solid. Like, I know a lot of people probably don't want to hear it, but when I think of Bill O'Brien, I think of his time with the Texans. And I go back, they didn't have a whole lot in that offense. And, Deshaun at that time was able to do a lot with not a whole lot. So, it intrigues me, and I'll be interested to see what he does with more talent, because I think at Alabama, he didn't necessarily have the same talent as when you think of Alabama. So, I don't know. It's weird. I kind of feel the same way about Bill O'Brien that I do Will Howard, where it's like I like a lot, but I also don't like some of it. I'm just going to have to see it. I'm just going to have to see it. It's weird. It's really weird. But
okay, I mean, I can get behind it. I mean, there's still some question marks with this team, obviously. But here's the thing. Once again, and I can say this with, like, hey, congrats to Michigan on them winning their national championship. But you guys ignited a whole new level of NIL money for us. Like, the fans were just like so much engaged now, like more than they were before. And they were like, nah, this can't happen again. The other thing is, and it's really funny, Michigan could honestly, like, look, they have a hell of a schedule next year, and if they're coming into Ohio Stadium undefeated, then props to them, honestly, because I'll be shocked. And if it is like that again, then once again, you're back to, hey, guess what? The Big Ten is still Ohio State and Michigan. I don't know, for those who don't know, Michigan does host Texas, USC, and Oregon during the season, and also they do make a road trip to Seattle to play Washington, which I'm sure Washington will not have circled on the schedule or anything like that. But it's going to be interesting, that game, because that's going to be a completely different Washington team, brand new players. They don't even have a quarterback. Although going forward, I'd watch out for Washington. Jed Fish is a hell of a coach, and he pretty much took Arizona from 1-11 to 8-4 in 2 seasons. So he's not messing around. Other than that, I mean, look, there's question marks everywhere. Every year there is. This year, though, I feel like there's not as many question marks. I feel very confident walking into this season. And if we aren't number one in the country preseason, I'll be shocked. But other than that, I mean, I don't really have too much, and I'm kind of feeling we're like the Big Ten. We're like the power in the Big Ten again.
Yeah.
And all it took was Michigan to be good. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. Literally, it took Michigan to be great, not good, just great.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're back to we have to do everything in our power to be just better than them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for next season, at least for me, I think it's Ohio State, Georgia, and then you have the Texases of the world, even though they lost a lot. Dylan Gabriel goes to Oregon. They're going to be tough, which Ohio State plays Oregon. You mentioned it. We go there. So that game's going to be interesting. And, I mean, with the 12-team playoff, it's certainly a lock. Ohio State gets in. I think it would be absolutely insane if, for whatever reason, Ohio State didn't make the playoffs. But for me, it's championship or bust. And that is a high bar to set. And I know that's a very emotional reaction that a lot of fans say every year. This is the first season at Ohio State, other than, I would say, the year we lost to Georgia in the playoffs, that this is national championship or bust. This is the best team you're going to have, at least for a couple years, because you look at it, this is essentially an NFL team. I mean, the defense, stacked full of NFL guys, whether it be next year or future, stacked full of NFL guys. Offensively, stacked full of NFL guys. 2 NFL running backs, if not 3. NFL receivers, possibly NFL quarterback, depending on how well he plays. You got to get it done. It's put up or shut up time, and this is the Ryan Day decision year. So you bring in a new athletic director, Gene Smith retires. He's not necessarily tied to Ryan Day. There's a lot. There's just a lot to this team. There's a lot to this program. I'm excited. There's absolutely no excuses. I think it's an interesting point to what you mentioned about the BCS, the 4-team playoff, now the 12-team playoff. Is history going to continue to repeat itself? I think so. I think there's no excuse why it shouldn't. Georgia's really the only other team that could compare to Ohio State, in my opinion, just because you're getting Carson Beck back and you're getting some pieces. So, but with that being said, I have nothing else to add here. So, you got anything else?
Nope.
All right. I will have Twitters and everything in the description, so go follow Cozy. You want to shout it out just before?
Yeah, it's just at Real Mind of Cozy
on Twitter. So
yep.
So,
and I'm
yep.
the one with the red X. So
yep. So everybody, thank you for watching. Let us know your thoughts. Going to try to expand, do some more Ohio State, not just talk about the Browns. So this is the first step. Long off season. We'll be talking about it, but let us know your thoughts, and we'll see you in the next one, everybody.